Hello again, my name is Pete Ashby, St George's House. Thank you very much for looking at this agenda on our January 24-25 leadership conversation on leaders as facilitators. A number of fellows said you felt that it would be good to have alongside the agenda just a few minutes on video explaining our thinking behind this, because we're very conscious this is a day of your life and you need to be satisfied it will be time well spent. We've got in our heads two groups of people for this conversation. The first group are chief execs and exec directors when you are leading and driving your own teams. And the second group are chairs, non-exec directors, trustees, when you're playing a more independent role in which you are astride a group and you're hoping them achieve certain agreed group outcomes. Our challenge, I think, to chief execs is the toughest. And the challenge for many chief execs is that if you want to be a top performing organisation and a top performing team, your leadership of your exec team is critical to that. And most chief execs do not work your team hard enough because you don't give enough thinking time to your role as facilitator of your top team. And I hope some of you will give this a day on the basis that through this day you hope to drive your team harder and to play that role. I think you really need to think through how you use that space. And we work now with a number of CEOs of different teams, looking at how you essentially dump a lot of the stuff on your agenda, a lot of the items which are for report, for update, for information giving, for awareness raising, you don't need, they become clutter. So dump the clutter and have a leaner, tighter agenda, controlled and set by you, which involves the difficult stuff that you want your top team to work through. And then you work your team to move thinking forward. And your team know they are all there in on that. They are not just there to lead the discussion on their area of accountability to you. They are all in on the discussion because the issues of concern are genuine leadership issues where you as CEO say, we need to be in on this, guys, because at the moment we're not where we need to be. And we have lots of ideas we're very keen to discuss with you about how as facilitator you need certain ground rules to that team before you start, and in your head you need to be clear about how you'll manage your leadership. Just to give you one example, most times I've been alongside a CEO in their exec team. When someone has disagreed, a CEO will often go to a closed down behaviour. The CEO will not like difficult stuff being opened up much. Really, to have a creative team in which you are tackling tough issues of underperformance, you need to be clear that you want to open up those points of disagreement. And as someone challenges or questions you, you want to very consciously and deliberately reassure them that that's what you need, that you are open to rethinking as you need them to be open to rethinking, and you bring others in on that group discussion. If there's one criticism one can make of nearly every chief exec with your team meetings, it's you don't ask enough questions. We don't do it. If a CEO sets the culture of their team and a top performing team needs a curious culture, you need to be the lead questioner. Most chief execs do not ask questions which are about knowing more, getting behind what someone gives you, asking in an open way. That's really interesting. Help us understand, John, Roger, Alice, whoever, why do you think like that? And what do you think we should be doing with it? So big discussions there. Now for chairs, when you come in wearing that, there's a non-exec driver of a discussion, all sorts of trusteeship models we know. When you come in there, I think so often that role is sort of sold to you as fairly straightforward. You simply need to manage a process and get them to a happy outcome by a certain time. We know to facilitate that discussion and to really have some higher quality behaviours at the end, you need to be quite clear about that agenda and which are the main items where you need to give quality time. And I think you need to empower your board, your group, whoever they might be at the beginning, so they feel with you they can negotiate it. Just as when you come here, once the process is underway, we shape our agenda. It's not the St George's House or P. Ashby agenda if I'm facilitating it. It's our shared agenda. So we set priorities. Our proposition to you is as a chair, a non-executive chair, if you share ownership of your agenda, it can be much more exciting. Now, we know there are certain key challenges we all face, and it'd be lovely to work them through with you. How you deal with a hijacker, someone who just tries to over-dominate. They're there, and you're trying to work out how you keep them in a bit more of a box without creating a drama and bringing other people in more. We've got lots of ideas about that. And of course, how you manage conflict within the group. Many of us, many chairs find that very hard on conflict. A key function of a chair, in our view, we want to put before you, is to legitimise that conflict and make it creative. All the time, the ground rules you start off with are critical to what you can achieve. I think to go into a chair role without ground rules is like going in with at least one hand tied behind your back. If something goes wrong, you need your ground rules because they're your connection with your group. So for everyone in on this, I hope you'll be able to take away certain ground rules that work for you in those different roles as facilitators. And I think most important for all of us is that first 15, 20 minutes with any group, when that group needs to be clear that you are not just holding that space, but you are pouring your energy into getting to certain outcomes. And as you pour your energy in, others will come in behind that and help to drive that with you. But there is a notion that as the facilitator, you hold the baton. When you bring people in, you pass them the baton, they take it, and then you take it back afterwards and give it to others. And your role as a baton holder is very important for managing the potential hijacker, for making sure it's truly inclusive. You're alongside minorities, any minority views, you are there with them, you're thanking them, reassuring them, appreciating them. Then at the end you're saying, if we have a majority view, we're not trying to do groupthink, we're looking for clarity, we don't want muzzy consensus. Those who haven't been with this majority view, are you happy to respect that as a majority view? And I found over many years of doing all sorts of board type events, if I'm there with the minority, not once has that minority resisted going with the majority view, because they feel heard. And because your role as facilitator, whether it's as CEO or as independent chair, as listening hard, listening deeply, honouring those contributions is so critical. It's something I think we're always learning at, and that's why we've got some special people joining this conversation. We're really excited about it. We think it will become one of our main themes in the society, and if you come on 24th, we look forward hugely to welcoming you and making this a really creative session. Thank you very much for your time now. Thank you.